Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Michi Makes Up. Today I'm going to talk about the new Sonia G Keyaki Mini Niji Brush. Along with the Niji brush, she also released a Mini Keyaki version of the Buffer Pro, which I didn't purchase because I already have that brush in this form. So this is a full-size Sonia G brush, and this actually, before it was called or renamed to Buffer Pro, it's actually called the Face One. So this is what I have here, is the Face One, and namely the difference between the two is going to be this traditional or maybe first generation Sonia G brush handle, which does not taper, and it comes actually to this flat bottom here. It does tend to take up more room in your brush holder, because if you compare to like her now current style of handle, they taper. So you can see the difference that way. But all that to say, I already have the Buffer Pro in the Face One version, so that's why I didn't purchase the Mini Keyaki of it. However, with the Mini Niji, I had been looking at this brush in its full-size version. So the full-size version, with what I mean by full-size is it has that long handle length. That is actually called the Niji Pro. The Mini Niji version has the Keyaki wood handle, which is gorgeous in itself. And I have here her first set of limited edition Keyaki brushes she released 2.5, 3 years ago. So here they are. And you can see it has the same wooden handles as the newly released Keyaki Niji. The wood grain from one brush to the next is going to be different just because of its natural quality of the material. And even within like one set that you get, you can see there's going to be, or there are variances, and that's just part of the beauty of the brushes. But the quality, I would say, they're the same as far as I can tell. And truly, this is part of the Keyaki set of mini brushes. How I use her Keyaki mini brushes, at least for this set here, is they're great travel companions. They're actually my first go-to for travel brushes. I have here the mini base, which is a mix of synthetic and natural fibers. I think it was her first hybrid brush before she released all her fusion brushes. And this was really great for blush. You can also use it for cream bronzers. I have not attempted to, actually no, I did. I did use this for foundation and it worked fine. The only thing is, because it's so small, it's just gonna take you longer. However, if you are traveling and you cannot be bothered to take full-size brushes, this will do the job. And you also have a powder brush to set your makeup. Unfortunately, this being limited edition, it's no longer available, but she did release a second set of mini Keyaki brushes that also comes with a few brushes that you can take with you, and it can do multiple jobs, create a whole face of makeup. So I will have a link below to that particular set. Let's get back into the Mini Niji. Difference between the Mini Niji and the Niji Pro, besides the handle length and the fact that this is the Keyaki wood handle, there's actually a slight difference in the brush itself. So notably, the bristles are going to be 1 inch shorter on the Mini, and also this is actually a fluffier brush than the Niji Pro, which I found really, really interesting. Sonia G, went over in painstaking details about the differences between the Mini and the Niji Pro, but it's fluffier both from when we look at it like this, from this angle, and also as how it fans out. And the way that she talked about it on her blog post is that this Mini Niji is going to be kind of in between her fluffy new bronzer brush and the Niji Pro. I guess going forward in this video, I'm just gonna call this the Mini, and then for the full-size Pro version, I'll call it Pro. So that kind of saves me from having to say Niji, Mini Niji, Niji Pro. I'll just say Mini versus Pro. So those are the main differences between the Mini and the Pro. And one more major difference is going to be the bristles themselves. So these are made up of Psychoho goat hair and they're dyed brown, whereas the Pro version also made up of Psychoho goat hair, but they're dyed a different color. It's like a gray. And both are beautiful, but I have just some kind of affinity to undyed face brush hairs and also ones that are dyed brown. I don't know why. I have a number of brushes that are dyed black and they function very well, but aesthetically, somehow, I just really enjoy this brown color. I think maybe it goes really well with the brush handle, maybe. So the next thing I want to do is just demonstrate for you. Use this brush to apply blush and then bronzer. I actually purchased this right when you could pre-order, and I received it several weeks ago, but I really wanted to spend the time to use it before I sit down and give you guys my thoughts on it. So this video is not going to be so much of first impressions. It's more like, okay, I've used it a whole bunch now. Like this is how it's settled into my routine and also my existing brush collection. I will also show you some comparisons towards the end. The first thing I want to show you guys is using this brush to apply an all-over face powder. So what I have here is Chantecaille's Lotus Perfect Blur Glow Powder. And it's perfect. This is a nice, fluffy, extremely soft brush, and it should do a fantastic job for all over face powder. Even though it's a fan shape, it's just fluffy enough and dense enough, but not too dense, that it should have a beautiful, or give you a beautiful application. So this is what I'm going to do. So you see a little bit of the product on the brush, and I'm just going to lightly put it all over the face. So that is with the all over face powder applied. You can see with the size of this brush and just how fluffy it is, it really makes everything very quick. What I especially enjoy about the shape of this brush is that you can really just do this for your bridge of the nose. If you're applying bronzer, I'll show you that in a sec. You can also use it at an angle here. But if you want to buff it out, or just maybe warm up the face and use a bigger surface, or apply the product onto more of a bigger surface, then you can use the top side of the brush to do that. So I'll demonstrate that in a sec. I do want to move on to blush next. So what I have here is Tom Ford's Shade and Illuminate Blush in O2 Explicit Flush. I use this quite a bit, and I have to like move it off my vanity, so I would use other blushes. And I'm actually going to go into this shade here. It's a bit lighter. I do like that even though this is a bigger size brush, because of the fan shape, you can go like this vertically to get your product. So even if the pans are a little bit small, as you can see here, it's shared between two shades, even though this is small, I'm not going to have any issues having to pick up this product here when I just want to focus on this, because I can just go about doing that vertically. And I'm just going to lightly do that. You can also do this to spread it. What I do love, because of the shape, you get this natural, just this upward sweep of the product, and it feels very natural doing that. So that is with the blush applied. I'm going to overlay with a brighter color now, because I want to show you what that looks like. And because this is the perfect product to do the overlay, I'm going to go into this brighter shade now. Notice the second time around with the brighter shade, I wasn't gonna do the sweeping motion. You could, I just didn't want to. I want the placement to be a little bit more concentrated around here. So I just did this, And I find that the brush is very versatile and it still does a good job with a range of different motions. Ones that really play into the shape of the brush with this sweep motion, but also it's just soft and dense enough that you can do this and still diffuse a product while having good placement, like a more controlled placement. Let me wipe off the brush because the last part I'm going to get into bronzer. For bronzer, I'm going to use Chanel's Le Beige Sun Kiss powder bronzer in the shade medium, and this is just for an all over glow. And for a bit of sculpting, I'm going into Chantecaille's Real Bronze in the shade Goya, and I'm gonna use this side just at an angle here to get product, and I'm placing it onto the hollows of the cheeks. And you can see the placement here. I'm gonna go back in now with the blunter side of the brush, that top part, to blend it out. So this is the finished look, and I've used the Mini Keyaki Niji Brush to apply 2 layers of blush, all over face powder, overall bronzer, plus a sculpting bronzer shade or product. And I think my conclusion for the brush is going to be it's a great multitasker. So let's get into some comparisons. Other fan brushes I have in my collection and the way that I would use them if interchangeable. These are the other 3. 2 of them are Sonia G brushes. This is a Sephora brush and it is made up of synthetic fibers. I don't believe they have this brush anymore. It's number 53. It's called the Pro Full Coverage Airbrush, and it is meant for foundation. Of course, you can use it for bronzer. It is meant to be a multitasker as well. And I bought this when I went to Sephora, and this was years ago. I had one of their makeup artists do my makeup, and I was generally really impressed when I saw her go about. I was like, wow, this does give me really nice fuller coverage for the same foundation I use at home, and I'm just getting really like beautiful blended in results, and that's why I went into this brush. Now that I look back at it, I find that this is really densely packed so that it could like move product, but it moves too much product. It just, when I compare to this hybrid natural and synthetic fiber brush from Sonia G, this is the base brush from her Lotus set, which I believe you can still get it individually, not as a set anymore. It's limited edition, but you can still get it as an individual. It's just day and night. This blends and moves product much more beautifully. And in fact, because of this special blend of natural plus synthetic fibers, it doesn't move the product in the same way that this would. So anyhow, all that to say, these 2 brushes are meant for like more base products. Of course, you can use it for bronzer. I love to use this as cream bronzers as well. A tip I received from you guys, thank you. And I also have this fan brush, which is from her Sky face set, and it's called the Worker Fan. The Worker Fan is great for these areas here, for powdered, and because it's undyed hairs, you could use it for liquids and creams. It's not going to be as effective. These are strong multitaskers, so even if you only had this brush, you could make do, and I think you're going to get beautiful results too, but this kind of takes it to the next level, and it will probably make your application experience smoother and faster. So with this fan brush, same idea here. However, if I were to have to pick between this brush to do powdered product like jobs or this one, I think I'm gonna go for this one because it does such a good job with a whole, all over face, plus blush, plus bronzer, that I think I would much prefer this. This is also softer than the bristles on this brush here. I think this one, I have to look up the grade of the hairs. It's also goat hairs undyed, but the grade is not Psycho-Ho. I think it is, I have to look it up, but I would say it's a grade below the Psycho hairs. And the first thing that I did notice about the brush is just how soft it is. And for those of you who do have the Pro version, I think that's the first thing that you guys would say too, is just how soft it is, how you know, good area coverage you get out of it, but then you can also still have good control over your placement. It's great for that reason, and I think it's the same for this. I might even say that this brush, being fluffier than the Pro version, gives you even a bit more coverage for bronzer than you would with the Pro. And for bronzer placement, these are my two main brushes that I use. This is from Sonia G's Hinoki set, and then this is from Rephr, the beloved brush number 22. This here, let's look at the size. You know, it does kind of have this like slight fan shape, but notably it's just very, very fluffy, and it makes very quick work in applying all over bronzer. It is also made up of undyed hairs, natural bristles, and it just does a really quick job. However, it's not so much of a multitasker as the Mini Niji. So I can't say, I can't say that, well, now that I have the Mini, I'm not going to use, that's really not the case. I think sometimes this being such a multitasker, if I use it mostly for blush, for example, well, I still need a really trusted, handy brush for all over bronzer, and this is an easy default, the number 22. As for the Hinoki brush, this is small enough to do the more intricate job, and then it also can be used for all over warming around the face. And what's beautiful about this brush, I have to check if it's sold out, this is a limited edition, is just the brush never has to leave your face, and you can get a whole range of motion because it's so smooth. It's wonderful. This is a wonderful brush, and it is not being replaced because I have the Mini Niji. This, I would say, is still a very strong multitasker that you can use for blush as well, and even all over face. It's just that this is more equipped, being a bigger size, to be an all over face powder, and surprisingly very, very good at blush. So this brush is not replacing anything in my collection, but it's more being like, it can do so much. I'll find it often probably in use sitting just flat on the vanity rather than in a brush holder. So that's how I would think of the new Mini compared to these fan brushes, these bronzer brushes, and the last set of brushes I'll compare against are going to be blush brushes. I have many blush brushes that I adore. These are my main ones. We have two Rephr brushes, 04, cute angled brush. We have the 05. This is just, there's something really great about the shape. You can use both sides. You can use here to blend. Wonderful. And then I have the Lotus brush, a small blush brush that also can double as for highlighter. And then this 3D brush from Koyudo. Such a unique shape. Unique placement. If I had to choose a favorite, it might be this one. However, it's discontinued. So I'm going to quickly just show you guys here and talk a little bit about the placement because of this 3D, and you can also use it on this other side, to do some fine tuning. I'd never use it for bronzer, but I bet you can do that. Although it is quite soft, so it probably won't blend out as beautifully as this brush here. But that 3D shape just gives it some interesting versatility, and most notably, it's that really beautiful blush placement that seems very effortless, even for very pigmented blushes, because it's so soft and airy. For very pigmented blushes, you can just like sweep it across like this and not have to worry about, oh, am I too heavy-handed? Likely it's going to help you correct any or spread any powders that might be a little bit too much, that you think you picked up too much from the brush. So for the other ones here, this is another Koyudo BP brush that's discontinued. I find it to be similar to how I use the Rephr 05. So they're not the same. This is fluffier, the 05, but if you're looking for something comparable to this discontinued BP, I would definitely consider the Rephr. And then, of course, this being a smaller size in general allows you more controlled placement, and then also double as like a nice highlighter brush, but you can also use it for like bronzer in certain areas. This is extremely soft. I think this is also Psycho goat hair. You can also use this brush to just clean off makeup or powders, or put powders under the eye too. It's just a nice small shape. This angled brush here, I always find that if I'm just being very deliberate about blush, I definitely think about this. And you know, there's this brush being angled can produce the same effect, but this is much denser. It's very soft, but a little bit denser. So your placement of the pigment will also come off as like more concentrated as a result. So all that to say, the Mini can do several of the jobs of the face brushes I just showed you. And while I don't think it replaces any of my blush brushes, it does do one or two things extremely well, plus then all the other things it can do. That's why it's still going to be probably a very, very often used brushes. It's going to just stay flat on the vanity. The last thing I do want to mention is, and I've said almost nothing but great things about this brush. However, there is something to note. Ever since I've picked it up, washed it, and have been using it for several weeks, I've noticed that quite a few hairs have come out. And I want to say, while I'm not counting every single one, even just for this filming session, there's probably like 3 hairs that I was able to, that was kind of sticking up because it became loose and I pulled it out. So that's notable, and I know some people are going to not like that, understandably. When it comes to new brushes, it is expected that some hairs are going to come out, but you would want it to stop. Eventually you want that to completely stem and not have to worry about it, because at that point it's like, well, when is this going to stop shedding? So I've seen a lot of this with the brush, and I know I've talked about with you guys about the Hinoki being perhaps an issue, and actually the Hinoki is not much of an issue for me, especially this bigger brush here, but I'm noticing a lot more shedding from this, and I hope that we're nearing the end of any shedding. I'll definitely give you guys another update. And then finally is the Pro version. It's currently out of stock, but it's set to come back. And if it does, there is going to be a price increase. And this is something Sonia G has announced and made clear in her blog and her Instagram post. Currently, this brush is for $85, which is the same as the Pro version when it was available. And so if you are interested in this brush, but you know, I should say, if you're interested in this brush or you're interested in the Pro version, I would take that into consideration, that you can still get it for $85 rather than whatever it is after the increase of the Pro version once it comes back. And then for the Rephr Pro brush, this is $75, so no change there. I don't think this version is currently in stock, so you can get the Mini version at the same price of $75. And the only difference would be that it's the handle length and then the material. And before we go here, the rest of the makeup that I'm wearing for today is going to be on the eyes. And I wonder if you can guess. I'm not going to say, maybe you guys can tell me. I am wearing on one eye the now discontinued, but it's the McGrath Golden Opulence palette on one eye. On the other eye, I am wearing the State of Emotions by Koyudo palette. It's their most recent eyeshadow palette that they released. You guys can tell me which eye is which. And maybe in a little bit, I'll review in a pinned comment below. Yes, if you want to see a video, a detailed review of this with comparisons to this palette, I do have a video on that, links below. And for lips, I'm also wearing Chanel's Cocoa Bloom in 110 Chance. Really, just really pretty. I wanted to revisit this formula here. And everything else you see I was putting on during the video. Let me know if you have any questions about the brush that we looked at today. I'm looking on my talking points here. I've covered it all. Love talking to you guys about makeup in general and brushes too. My collection has grown very steadily, nicely over the past couple of years. If you are interested in picking up the Mini Niji, it is limited edition, so while it's still available, I really encourage you to not wait. I had waited a long time for the Pro version, so much so that it's no longer available or has been out of stock, and that if it comes back, there's a price increase. You know, I always look back and be like, oh, I should have gotten it then. But anyhow, happy with this. I encourage you to, if you're interested, to pick this up as well and not wait. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you guys very soon. Bye.